the delay and all the other things, we are doing various testing for camp meeting. Because of the complexity of what we're trying to do, we have to figure out how to do it ahead of time. So that kind of took us off on a tangent for a moment. This afternoon, I want to give a presentation called For the Healing of the Nations. Last week, when we were doing health and temperance, I mentioned about toxins and how, as far as we got that week or last week, was talking about how eating a whole food, plant-based diet helps to cut down on the amount of toxins that we take in. Because plants have, a diet of plants actually has a lower intake of toxins than a diet of meat and dairy products. There's more toxins that come in with meat and dairy than with plant foods. Plus, with plant foods, there's fiber, which is there's not in animal foods, and fiber helps to escort toxins out of the body. And when we throw on top of that organic foods are known to have higher nutritional levels than non-organic foods. So if we're eating a plant-based diet, whole food plant-based diet on top and with as much organic as we can, we're getting a lot of nutrition. We're reducing the amount of toxins coming in through our dietary, plus the fiber helps to escort the toxins that are there outside of it, outside of the body. And we also looked at some things that help the body to detoxify, such as milk thistle through the liver, cilantro, and we also talked about chlorella being a very powerful detoxifier. And so I want to look a little bit more at chlorella today, and I'm going to preempt that with some things. So the presentation is called For the Healing of the Nations. Revelation 22:2 says, "In the midst of the street of it, the New Jerusalem, that is, and on either side of the river was there the tree of life, which bare 12 manner of fruits, and yielded her fruit every month. And the leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nations." I am always fascinated by this verse. Where is the healing coming from?
The leaves.
You sure it's not the fruit? How many people would think it's the fruit? I think most everybody would think it's the fruit because, you know, there's 12 different fruits that we're going to get from that, and, you know, we're going to just enjoy all this wonderful fruit. But where does the Bible say that we are going to get the healing from? The leaves. Excuse me. So I think this gives a clue as to what is vital for healing. Let's go back to the other end of Earth's history. So Revelation is at the end of this Earth's history before going into eternity of wonderfulness. At the beginning of Earth's history, in the Garden of Eden, we're told, Genesis 3:18, "Thorns also and thistles shall bring forth to thee, and thou shalt eat the herb of the field." Well, what is the herb? In Hebrew, it basically means to be green, or grass, or green plants. So when Adam and Eve fell, they were given the herb to eat also. Before that, they ate fruits, nuts, seeds, legumes, things that it was a lot of centered around the seeds. Had the seeds and then the fleshy part around the seeds. That was kind of what made up most of Adam and Eve's diet before the fall. And at the time of the fall, the Lord said, okay, also eat the herb of the field, the green stuff. So it is as if the Lord knew that the greens have things in them that we need to deal with this environment of sin until we get to New Jerusalem. And even then, apparently for at least a stretch of time, the leaves of the tree of life are going to help us to be completely healed in some form or fashion. So greens are something we need to pay attention to if we want to minimize the effects of sin on our bodies. Let's look at greens a little bit more. This is just a sample of some of the things that greens do for us. They help clear clogged arteries because of the B vitamins, such as the folate and B6 that it contains. It helps to reduce homocysteine. Elevated homocysteine levels are correlated with cardiovascular disease and Alzheimer's. Greens help to reduce high blood pressure because of the magnesium, potassium, and calcium, which balances out with the sodium, and it regulates the amount of fluid in the body and where the fluid is, so we have high enough blood pressure but not too high, and low enough blood pressure but not too low either, because we can have too low of blood pressure also. So the greens help to balance that. Greens help to reduce cancer, such as gallbladder cancer, stomach cancer, prostate cancer, because of the carotenoids that it contains. They act as antioxidants, and that helps to neutralize the effects of pollution, toxins, and metabolic waste. So greens help us to deal with the pollution and the toxins of this environment. Greens also reduce macular degeneration, especially spinach and collards. So this is just a tiny overview, and we're going to see a lot more things that greens do. What are some of the nutrients in greens? Magnesium helps to make chlorophyll green. In other words, it's that magnesium component of chlorophyll that makes greens green. Otherwise, it is, for humans, it is iron in the midst of the hemoglobin molecule that makes our blood red. So chlorophyll and our blood is very similar in components. It just has a difference of whether it's magnesium or not that will determine if our blood was green. We could have green blood if we had magnesium in the middle of a molecule, just like the green plants do, but we don't. So that shows, though, how similar chlorophyll is to hemoglobin as well. Iron, especially in spinach and Swiss chard. Calcium, especially in kale and dandelion greens. Folate, which is B9, prevents certain birth defects. Vitamin C, such as in chicory and endive, beet, and mustard greens. B6, which is needed for protein and fat metabolism. Riboflavin B2, which is especially in spinach and beet greens. Carotenoids, such as lutein, alpha and beta carotene, that's especially in spinach. And there's also disease-fighting chemicals, antioxidants to reduce our aging, or we call anti-aging. There's omega-3s, which help to make it help our anti-inflammatory, so that we don't have a big set of inflammation going on in our bodies. And fiber helps to keep the colon happy. In other words, fiber helps to keep the colon swept out. It helps to escort toxins out of the body. And for those of you that go back a year or two, you might remember Popeye and spinach. Probably in his time, he caused a whole generation of kids to actually eat their greens. Even though maybe the kids didn't like them, but because here you had this funny guy with popping muscles that probably every boy would like to have, at least as far as the boys. Maybe it helped a generation of boys to eat greens that wouldn't otherwise have eaten their greens. That's Herbert says he was one. So yes, greens are very, very high in nutrients, and they do a host of different things, keep our body nourished, help to fight aging, help to fight inflammation. Chronic inflammation is as an underlying factor in many chronic health problems. So let's look at some of these specific greens. Starting with the dark green lettuces, these are the ones that we are most familiar with. The romaine lettuce, the green leafy, and the red leafy, those are the ones that we are probably the most used to. There's oak leaf there as shown. It looks a little bit like the red leaf lettuce. And then there's a butterhead. And of course, these are just examples. I'm sure you can find nuances of these in different places. These dark green lettuces are most often found in salads because they're not too bitter. They have a nice crunchy texture to them. They're not too hard either. They're nutrient dense, and they just lend very well to raw salads. And of course, in addition to just the greens, you can add tomatoes, onions, carrots, cucumbers, and create a really colorful bowl. So these dark green lettuces, they're rich in vitamins A, C, and K, which are all important for a number of functions. It's also important for your eyesight, bone health, skin elasticity, and helps your blood to clot normally. And why we say clot normally is because you do want your blood to clot, because if you don't have enough clotting factors in your blood, if you got a cut, you would bleed out, and it wouldn't stop as it should. And if you have too much and your blood tends to clot, you could end up with higher incidences of stroke and heart attacks and other things like that. So we want a normal clotting function, sufficient but not too much. And that's one of the things that our dark greens do for us. So these are most common that we are familiar with. Then there's cruciferous leafy greens. We probably know the cruciferous family most commonly from broccoli and cauliflower. But there's also some leafy greens in that same category, and those include kale, mustard greens, collard greens, cabbage, arugula, and of course, broccoli. It wouldn't be really a leafy green, but we know that as part of the cruciferous. These cruciferous leafy greens, they're high in nutrients and contain glucinolates, which inhibit the growth of certain cancers. And that's the thing with these cruciferous vegetables. They're very good overall for cancer prevention. So in addition to our broccoli and our cauliflower and our cabbage, we can include some of these leafy greens, the kale, the mustard greens, the collard greens, and the arugula. They're abundant in magnesium and tryptophan, which is interesting, tryptophan, because tryptophan is a precursor to serotonin, and serotonin is the neurochemical that helps us to feel relaxed and comfortable and not irritable and not angry and all of that kind of thing. So you'd never think that your greens could actually be relaxing, but they can be, especially the cruciferous vegetables. And of course, this helps with brain health and brain function and heart health. Now, we can cook these greens separately or combine them to create a colorful blend. Usually we do cook kale and mustard greens unless it's very young and very tender. If you get very young and tender kale, you can have a nice raw kale salad. But when it gets older, then it gets tougher, and it usually goes down a little bit easier if we start to cook it when it gets a little older. And you can add them to soups and casseroles and saute them and do all kinds of things with them and adding to your dietary. Arugula, you might add that to your green leafy salad. You might add a little bit, but they tend to be a little bit sharper in flavor, a little bit more bitter, so you're probably not just having a bowl of arugula. You probably are combining that with some of the other more mild greens in your salad. Then we have spinach and Swiss chard, and these belong to the family of Amarantaceae, which includes beets, and they're similar in nutritional taste and value. These are rich in iron, which helps to carry oxygen. And an oxygenated body is important for energy. It's important for cancer prevention, for clarity of thinking, and just a bunch of stuff. That's why fresh air is one of the 8 natural laws of health. Well, what we eat also helps that air to be delivered appropriately, and our greens help us to do that. You can include these greens in your raw salads, like especially the spinach, or you can chop and steam and season them lightly to create a delicious side dish. These greens, spinach and Swiss chard, they're kind of halfway between the really tender romaine or the tender leafy lettuces that we eat and the harder kales. So these can kind of go either direction. I personally like Swiss chard a lot. It's not a very hard leaf, so it cooks up very easily. The stems are brightly colored, and if you start them cooking a little bit before you start the leaves, they cook up nice and tender as well. And I think Swiss chard is a nice, happy medium to everything. Now, some people will say, don't eat too much of those though, because they have oxalic acid in them. And well, that oxalic acid can be poisonous, and you can end up having problems like kidney stones or things like that. Well, as far as being poisonous, there are other things that have more oxalic acid in them than spinach and Swiss chard. As far as in order from highest to lowest, buckwheat is one of the highest, has one of the highest levels of oxalic acid. How many of you have ever had buckwheat pancakes? So yeah, that's pretty high in oxalic acid. But don't fear, we're going to talk about it. Actually could be beneficial. After that is star fruit, which I think is a tropical fruit. Some of you are going to know that. You probably never knew oxalic acid was high in star fruit. Black pepper, parsley, poppy seed, rhubarb stalks, amaranth, spinach, and now we're getting to spinach and Swiss chard, and then beets and things like cocoa and chocolate, and then most nuts and most berries and beans also have oxalic acid. Well, oxalic acid is something that is naturally occurring in plants and animals and humans. And, you know, the idea of it being toxic, if you're going to, if you want to eat enough rhubarb to the point it's toxic, you're going to need to eat about 11 pounds of rhubarb. I don't know how many people are going to sit down and eat 11 pounds of rhubarb. If you have a rhubarb crisp, you might have maybe a cup, maybe in it, or maybe as far as in a single portion that is. Or a pie, you might have a half or 3/4 of a cup if you have rhubarb pie. You're getting nowhere near 11 pounds of rhubarb, so don't worry about that. And rhubarb actually is higher in oxalic acid than spinach is. And so oxalic acid, though, is interesting because years ago, the American Cancer Society conducted tests, we're talking like 50 years ago, and they looked at oxalic acid in relation to cancer. And they ended up reporting that that oxalic acid was actually beneficial for cancer. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. It actually helps to prevent cancer. It helps to kill bacteria and viruses. It helps with decalcification of calcium deposits in the body. So oxalic acid is not a bad thing. Now, if you sat down and ate 11 pounds of rhubarb in one sitting, that would maybe have something to talk about. But nobody's going to do that. Nobody's going to talk about eating 11 pounds of spinach in one meal either. Even if you juice it, you're not going to be getting 11 pounds of spinach in one serving, I don't think. So a lot of this is really rated as far as the fear. The key again is you eat a variety of things. You're not just eating spinach and that's it. And if you have a salad, you're probably having more than just a spinach salad. And if you're making green drinks, yeah, okay, you might have a green drink of spinach for today or this week, but you'll switch it up to something else or include something else later on. So it comes back to the same idea that it has to do with dosage and it has to do with variety in our diets. People have said things like phytates are bad, they're an anti-nutrient, and they put oxalic acid in the same category, that is anti-nutrient because it prevents certain minerals from being absorbed, such as magnesium and calcium. But on the other hand, they're antimicrobial, so and anti-inflammatory. So we have various things going on. We don't want to just throw out the baby with the bathwater, as the saying goes. We eat a sensible, varied diet, including whole foods, and God didn't create these foods to poison us. He created with a variety of things that, yes, if you took one particular thing and isolated and compounded it, you probably are not going to get the benefit, the effects that you wanted. But in the context of everything else that you're eating, the context of the plant, it is presented to your body in a way that it is a good dosage amount and it is in balance. So again, coming back to the idea of variety and whole plant foods. Another category of leaves is the chicory family of leaves. This includes curly endive, Belgian endive, radicchio, puntarelli, which is kind of an interesting little one. Actually, it's the little spiky things that are the specific, that's what it's specifically called. It's a Roman, they use that in a Roman salad, and they have a particular dressing that goes along with it, and so it sounds very unique. So that is in this family. The radicchio, some of our spring mixes, we see that those little bits of red and white, and you might have wondered, what on earth is that, because it's not green? Well, it's this radicchio green. Well, it's not actually green. It's overpowered by the red, but it's still in the family of the greens. And then we also have escarole. This family of leaves belongs to the daisy family and includes similar bitter leaf vegetables. So we're probably not just sitting down to a whole bowl of this. We are mixing this again with some of the other more tender leaves. That's why with the radicchio, the reds of the radicchio, you'll see little bits of that or little chunks of that with the rest of the spring mix that you eat. These are rich in many vitamins and minerals, especially in folate, vitamins A and K, and is high in fiber. And they can be used cooked or used in a raw salad. Then there's other edible greens, such as dandelion, red clover, plantain, watercress, chickweed. Then these are usually things you're actually going to find growing as a weed in your garden or in your yard. Dandelions, plantain. Watercress would probably be more if you have a water feature, but chickweed will be there, and clover really might be there. So if you don't spray your yard, you could actually go out and harvest from your lawn dandelion, red clover, plantain, and chickweed, and add that to your salads as well. Most people wouldn't think of that, but that you can do that. Some of this can be available in supermarkets, but it's probably growing in your yard anyhow. Dandelion greens promote a healthy liver. Plantain and watercress keep the skin cells healthy. Red clover regulates hormones. Chickweed has anti-inflammatory properties, which is really great. All the itises are really inflammatory problems. Arthritis and appendicitis and the this-itis and the that-itis, all those really have inflammatory components. And so Chickweed is even helpful with that. So you can add these to your greens and raw salads and stir fries and soups. Most of these are tender enough that you can eat just in your raw salad. Then iceberg lettuce. Different people have said different things about iceberg lettuce. And some more radical ones will say, iceberg lettuce isn't worth anything, don't eat it. Well, it's not exactly a junk food. It's just that because it's not as dark green, it doesn't have as much nutrients in it. It still has fiber, it still has water, and it still has some nutrients. It's just that it's not the amount that the darker greens have. So I wouldn't say that it is a junk food. It's just maybe not on the top of the list as far as high nutrients. But if you're served iceberg lettuce, you don't feel confident that you don't have to refuse to eat it because it's not going to do you any harm. It just doesn't have quite as much nutrients as the darker greens do. So if somebody serves you iceberg, eat it, enjoy it, and go on. Now we're going to look at some of the green superfood supplements. We have chlorella, spirulina, barley green, wheatgrass, alfalfa grass, beet leaves, green drinks, etc. And you've probably heard of most all of these. I'm going to focus especially on chlorella because it is actually the highest of all known plant foods in chlorophyll. And chlorophyll, again, is like a blood transfusion. It is so close to human blood that it's almost like a blood transfusion. If we had the magnesium instead of the iron in our hemoglobin, we would be having green, we would bleed green instead of red. So that's how close it is. It's a seaweed. It's considered a blue-green algae, but it really is more green than blue. It's actually very dark green. This is as a powder. Some of you are familiar with it. It is classed as a food, and it's one of the most nutritionally dense foods on the planet, and you'll see why here in a minute. It contains more chlorophyll than any other known plant, and that's quite a designation. As I said, it's identical to human blood except for the center element in magnesium is magnesium instead of iron. That's for the chlorophyll. It's a superior blood builder in humans, and it's a very powerful tissue cleansing agent, causing the tissues to release their toxins for elimination from the body. And this is where it kind of ties into the presentation last week as far as detoxification. When the body encounters toxins and pollutants, it'll often store it in your tissues, your muscles, and your fat. And it can just stay there. But one of the interesting things with chlorophyll is that it causes these tissues and the fat to release the toxins. So then if you're also having a high fiber diet, and chlorophyll has quite a bit of fiber in it as well, it escorts the fiber escorts the toxins out of the body. So what is great with taking chlorophyll as a supplement is that you're basically taking a daily detox, which is great. It's a powerhouse of nutrition. It's high in protein. It's up to 58% protein, which is twice as much as soybeans, twice as much as steak. So if anybody's wondering about, if any of your friends say, but where you're getting your protein from, you're not eating your steak. Well, you're taking your chlorella, which has twice as much protein. 4 times as much as eggs. It has vitamins and minerals, including vitamins A, C, B, folic acid, which is a B vitamin, vitamin E, potassium, calcium, zinc, iron, magnesium, iodine, lutein, 18 amino acids, essential fatty acids, and chlorophyll, and abundance of beta-carotene 6 times as much as spinach. Okay, let's take a breath here after all of that whole list of stuff. That's why it's quite a motivation to include chlorella as part of our detoxification program. It's the highest concentration of nucleic acids of any foods, plus being the highest in chlorophyll. What those nucleic acids are in chlorophyll, they're called chlorella growth factor. And because chlorella grows so quickly, it has these factors in it so that it stimulates proper growth and repair. It helps the DNA and the RNA to produce the body's needed protein, and it also slows aging. So a lot of stuff that it does. So some specifics now of what systems it helps. It boosts the immune system. It helps slow, the common things that slow the immune function are aging, pollutants, and malnutrition. So getting the pollutants out of our body, detoxification, is an important way of boosting our immune system. Taking chlorella, studies have shown that resulted in 10 times the number of white blood cells at infection sites and increased interferon and natural killer cell activity in T and B cells, which has to do with antibody production. So this is going to really help. Also includes the chlorella results in fewer respiratory infections and flus, and is even being looked at to help with HIV. Part of the reason for all this is the nucleic acids, the nutrition, the protein, and the fact that it cleanses us, our bodies, from toxins. And the removal of toxins has kind of been the highlight. So again, chlorophyll helps the release of toxins from tissues. Now, of course, I'm not saying that, oh, you just take your chlorella and you forget about eating all those other greens that we just spent a few slides looking at. This is on top of all those wonderful greens that you were going to eat otherwise. Again, the principle is a varied diet. We just don't eat only one thing and that's it. So chlorophyll helps release toxins from tissues, including pesticides and heavy metals. And you know, anybody that has a exposure to pollutants and toxins and chemicals would do well. Well, first of all, in this environment, it's very difficult not to be exposed to any pollutants because that's just our environment. It's not getting any less polluted. But if you are a person that are exposed to chemicals or toxins or pollutants because of your work, say if you're a painter, if you're a mechanic, if you are somebody else that deals with exposure to chemicals. If say even a farm worker that gets exposed to the pesticides or the fertilizers and stuff, any worker that has exposure to these various chemicals would really do well to get on a program of detoxification, and I would suggest chlorella as well because it is a great detoxifier. Because toxins, once they're in the body, toxins are poisons and they disrupt body functions. Then you start wondering, well, why do I feel this way? Why do I feel sluggish? Why am I fatigued? Why are my hormones out of kilter? Why am I not sleeping very well anymore? Why am I in a brain fog? Well, if you fit the picture of being exposed to pollutants and toxins and you're not doing anything on an ongoing basis to help your body to get rid of them, maybe that's part of the reason. And yes, we have a great detoxification system which should have taken care of most general pollutants, but in this world, if we are over-stressing that system, we might need to give that system some additional help. Chlorella also has sticky or absorbent cell walls to bind to toxins and escort them out of the body, so not only does it help to pull the toxins out of the tissues and the fats, but it helps them to escort them out of the body, which is a good double thing. Cleanses from heavy metals, mercury, lead, aluminum, cadmium, etc. Cleanses from insecticides and pesticides such as PCB and DDT, And interestingly, was used post-Chernobyl disaster for detoxification. If you remember from years ago, from Chernobyl, that was used as a supplement of interest or choice for detoxification for those people that were exposed to that. Helps its liver detoxify, helps the liver in its detoxification function, so it's great for your liver. Toxins weaken the immune system and wreaks havoc to all body functions. So that's just another reason to help your body to get rid of this stuff. And chlorella, greens, fiber, all this stuff is really important aspects of this. Chlorella helps protect against carcinogens and cancer reoccurrence. It's antioxidant, it has beta-carotene, which is cancer fighting. It cleanses again from your chemicals, your toxins, and major cancer causes. And you know, some cancers are as a result of chemicals. Even like bladder cancer, which is kind of an odd thing from what I understand. Exposure to chemicals like paint and other things like that. That's one of the causes of bladder cancer. So if once again you're exposed to chemicals and toxins, it's good to help your body in the detoxification process. You need strong immune function to get rid of cancer, yes, and it's a definite chemopreventative by reducing apoptosis. Apoptosis is a function in which the cells are programmed to naturally die at a certain point. During their life cycle, they divide and multiply, and that's great. But there's a point in time cells are supposed to die. That's just the way we are right now. I don't know if that's going to be happening in the Earth Made New, but that's how it is today. Cells are supposed to die at a certain point. And if they don't, and they just keep multiplying, we call them cancer. So we do want that proper timed death situation to take place. Reverses the aging process. I think all of us that are getting younger like this idea. It helps us from rusting out, which is basically from free radicals, which compromise our cell walls, our cell functions. Chlorella's nucleic acids helps to keep our memory sharp, helps with the antioxidants, helps to stimulate metabolism, as well as helping with nutrition. It cleanses us from a lifetime of toxins. So in other words, even toxins you've been exposed to before, helps with healing, and it helps to maintain good eye health. We're going to talk about dosage here in a little bit. Promotes brain function, and I think we all want good brain function, memory, clear thinking, concentration. Our B vitamins are involved in that, including B12 as well as folate. Those are two important things for preventing Alzheimer's. The nucleic acids have antioxidants, which also help our brains from rusting out. Essential fatty acids, cleanses from heavy metals. And we see this reoccurring thing of nutrition and cleansing and helping with inflammation. We see this through all the different body systems. It's doing a similar thing to keep all of our body systems in a much more optimal functioning level. Also prevents insomnia as well. Helps suppress stress hormones and helps the body to handle stress. Promotes tissue repair because of those nucleic acids. Helps to rebuild damaged tissue, helps to promote protein manufacture, and chlorella can also be used as a poultice for wound and ulcer healing, which we'll talk about here in a minute. Improves heart health, protects the heart, reduces high blood pressure and high cholesterol levels because of the niacin, the pantothenic acid, and magnesium. And it helps to lower cholesterol even better than cholesterol-lowering drugs. So if you have any friends that are on cholesterol-lowering drugs, get them on a better diet and get them onto some chlorella. Bowel health helps to normalize digestion and elimination. And that's all a very good thing because your digestive tract is tied to your immune system, it's tied to your brain as well, and tied to so many things. They've discovered recently that there's some really, really powerful communication between your gut and your brain. That's why if you're upset, your digestion is often upset. If your stomach is not working properly, you have some kind of brain fog probably. So there's some really powerful communication, two-way communication between your gut and your brain. Fiber prevents the constipation, it promotes friendly bacteria, helps our breath to smell good, detoxifies our digestive tract, liver, bloodstream, et cetera, et cetera. Again, similar things that it's doing for all of our problems. Boost energy levels, helps to rejuvenate adrenals, helps to provide a complete spectrum of amino acids, provides vitamins, antioxidants, immune support, toxins, cleanse, again, so all this resulting in boosting our energy levels as well. Helps to normalize weight and metabolism, helps you gain weight if you need to gain weight, helps you to lose weight if you need to lose weight. So it helps us there. So that's a really great thing for chlorella as well. And part of the reason, again, is it cleanses out toxins. Again, getting rid of those toxins is a very important part of overall health. Promotes the burning of excess fat and releasing fluid. So anybody that is trying to lose a little extra there, chlorella can be a significant help with that. It provides the nutrients and the protein. And one of the ideas of weight gain is that it has been considered that the body keeps us hungry until it gets enough nutrients. So if a person is eating a diet that's highly refined and a lot of the nutrients are refined out, it's not getting as much vitamins and minerals in the diet. So it keeps you hungry until, okay, it gets the vitamins and minerals it needs, but in the process of you eating all this refined food, you're getting a lot more calories than you really should be getting. So the important thing is eating more nutrient-dense food so the body can say, oh, I've got the nutrition I need, I really don't need any more, you really don't need to eat anymore, we're all good. So eating lots of high nutrient stuff. Promotes growth, proper weight gain, and IQ in children. Helps with the growth and function. Improves fasting glucose in diabetics, so for if a person's diabetic, it's also good. Normalizes many body processes and functions, and improves cellular efficiency. It helps with diabetes, as I mentioned. Other things that it helps with: frequent colds, flus, infections, and low immune response. It helps with exposure to environmental pollution and toxins, and as I said, this is for everyone, but especially those that find themselves in occupations where you're exposed to environmental pollution or toxins or chemicals. You should really pay attention. Helps with tissue damage and or slow healing wounds or ulcers, such as bed ulcers. If your job exposes you to toxic chemicals, including pesticides or insecticides, etc. If you have or are exposed to heavy metals, such as mercury, cadmium. If you are growing older and memory is not as sharp. If you want to lose weight or gain weight, or you are frail. Any digestion and digestive tract problems, including ulcers. Feeling tired or fatigued or sluggish, and also chronic fatigue syndrome, and also sluggish adrenals, which is for probably anyone who is on the stressed side. If you are stressed or feel depressed, if you're diminishing ability to learn and memorize, if you have high cholesterol levels and high blood pressure, if you have fibromyalgia, liver problems, cancer, mononucleosis, such as Epstein-Barr virus, if you have allergies, such as environmental and seasonal, if you have poor eyesight, glaucoma, cataracts, and macular degeneration because of the lutein that it has inside there. And I'll just mention that actually a combination this is from experience, a combination of chlorella with an eye supportive supplement can really do wonders, and I think Sister Lottie can back that one up as well. Prevention of pending health problems, poor complexion and frequent dermatitis or experience hair loss, diabetes, especially with complications, heart palpitations, dizziness, cold hands and feet, PMS, and infertility. And of course, as far as even dizziness and some of these other things, we're assuming you're drinking enough water. This chlorella does not supersede any of the 8 natural laws. It works along with it. So yes, you're still going to be drinking your water, you're still going to get your exercise, you're still going to get your sleep. Chlorella will not take the place of sleep. No, it won't. Even though some people might want to think so. It does not. Now let's look at some of the practical stuff, which has to do with case histories and dosages. These are some actual case histories of people who have had various health problems and with the usage of chlorella has helped them. Ulcers, 10 days of 3 grams per day for pain to go away and 21 to 40 days for complete healing. Now, when we talk about a gram, a teaspoon is going to contain about 3 to 4 grams of chlorella powder. So this person took a teaspoon a day for 10 days and the pain went away, and in a month and a half for total healing. For lower cholesterol, 9 grams per day. So we're talking of 3 teaspoons a day. High blood pressure, 10 grams per day plus 3 ounces of liquid extract. So this person added the liquid extract, but they're talking about, again, now probably 3 rounded teaspoons a day. For fibromyalgia, 10 grams per day plus 100 milliliters chlorella extract per day. And part of the reason this was effective is because of the magnesium that chlorella contains and that tryptophan that we talked about, which increases the serotonin levels. They're talking about, and we're talking about this person taking about 3 rounded teaspoons per day plus an extract. Cirrhosis of the liver, 6 grams per day plus a chlorella growth factor for 4+ months. So we're talking again of 2 teaspoons per day plus chlorella growth factor. Allergies, 10 grams per day for 6+ months. So we're talking of a rounded teaspoon 3 times a day. Cancer, 20 grams per day plus 5 ounces of extract. So we're talking of 2 rounded teaspoons 3 times a day, or a total of about 2 tablespoons a day. Cleansing from heavy metals, 8 grams per day. For ulcers and wounds, apply honey to wound and cover with gauze soaked in chlorella growth factor, or just mix the chlorella powder with honey and apply as a poultice. Now, you know, honey is a very good wound healer also. And especially if you get the exotic Manuka honey, it helps even better. But this can be used for ulcers. It can also be used for nasal irrigation, for colds and sinuses. Boil 1 teaspoon of powder in a pint of water, strain, add 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and use while still very warm. So these are some things that people have actually used chlorella for, and the dosage amounts. So looking at dosage, or average dosages now. When you first begin taking chlorella, start gradually, especially if you've never taken chlorella before. Some people have to kind of get used to it. So this is a good thing to do, to start small. Take 1/3 of a teaspoon of powder in a 1/4 cup to 1/2 cup of water for the first week. Then after the first week, you double that to 2/3 of a teaspoon in water or juice or whatever. And then the 3rd week, take the full recommended teaspoon a day. There are some people that do have to take it slow. Some people don't handle it quite as well. And I think the reason that they don't is because they're probably lacking digestive enzymes. I really think that's part of the reason there are a few people that end up not handling it. They have other digestive issues that if those were addressed, it's very possible they still could take chlorella. But you don't want to be taking a full teaspoon up front and then discover you're one of those that have digestive issues and it just doesn't work for you right now. So start small. If you take the tablets, you're taking a whole lot more tablets. I love the powder, to do the powder, because I'm not one that likes to have to swallow a mountain of pills. Yes, I do swallow supplements, but if it's available in powder or liquid, I certainly would rather take it as a powder or liquid and swallow it that way as opposed to having to gulp down some actual tablets, especially when it's a lot. And the nice thing about chlorella, I don't find it has a particularly strong flavor. To me, wheatgrass and barley grass have a lot more of a hay, smells more like a horse than chlorella does. Chlorella, it doesn't even have very much, it doesn't even have a fishy flavor to me. It's just pretty benign. So if you've ever found that, oh, I don't like barley grass or wheatgrass because it smells hay or it smells like a horse, this should be pretty easy for you to take. If you don't like it at all, though, you can take it as tablets, but you're going to be swallowing a lot of tablets. If you take tablets, you would have to take, to be comparable to the first thing that we just talked about, 5 200 milligram tablets or 2 500 milligram tablets a day with a meal for the first week. So we're talking of just to do the third of a teaspoon, you're either taking 2 500 milligram tablets or 5 200 milligram tablets. And then the next week you're taking 10 of the 200 milligram tablets or 4 of the 500 milligram tablets a day for the second week. And then finally for the third week, 15 200 milligram tablets or 6 500 milligram tablets a day. I'm not up to swallowing that many tablets if I can avoid it, as opposed to just dumping a teaspoon of the powder in and drinking it down. But hey, it's up your choice. So again, 2 to 3 grams equals a teaspoon. 12 grams is in a rounded tablespoon. So a teaspoon, that's a smaller measure, that's 3 to 4 grams. A rounded tablespoon is 12 grams. So an adult dosage is 15 tablets or 3 grams, that's the target, or 1 teaspoon of powder and up a day. And when we say up is because if you have serious illnesses, you'll want to go up. So for serious illnesses, you'll take up to 60 tablets a day or 12 grams, which is the rounded tablespoon or 4 teaspoons of powder a day. That's very doable. But 60 tablets is an awful lot. That is somewhat of a serious illness. But if you're having cancer, you're going to want to still double that to 2 tablespoons a day. And if you're energetic and your body takes it, I don't see why you couldn't go to 3 tablespoons a day. For children, they'll take 200 milligrams per year of age. So in other words, for a 4-year-old, you'll be targeting 1/4 teaspoon. For an 8-year-old, you'll be targeting 1/2 teaspoon. For a 12-year-old, you'll be targeting 3/4 teaspoon. And by the time they're at mid-teens, they should be no problem taking a full adult dosage. If you're taking a liquid, it'd be 1 ounce per day, up to 5 ounces per day for more serious problems. It's going to be a lot harder to find the liquid, but it is available. The powder, we do have the powder available at the office for those that want it. Benefits usually can be seen after taking chlorella for 3 to 6 months. I will say as quick as 2 weeks. It can be as quick as 2 weeks. But it probably will be at least 2 weeks before you see the effects. Maximum certainly will take longer. Now, pets can also take this, and it can be adjusted by the weight of the animal, just like with the children. So if you have a small dog, probably you're going to think about a 4-year-old size. A little bit bigger dog, an 8-year-old size. A big dog, probably a 12-year-old size. And if the dog weighs as much as you do, probably an adult size of dosage, that is. And chlorella can be used by pregnant women, but it would be best if the woman started the chlorella before pregnancy to get the toxins out first. Because remember, chlorella is going to start rousing up toxins. It's best you get those toxins roused up and eliminated before you get pregnant in the first place. Now, as far as choosing chlorella, you can choose various forms. But the best is that it's broken or pulverized cell wall, specifically by the mechanical method and not the heat or chemical method. Why it needs to be broken or pulverized cell wall is because the cell wall of chlorella is tough. And if you don't get it broken or pulverized, your body's not able to get through to the nutrients that's inside of it as well. And if we choose the broken or pulverized cell wall by the mechanical means, it has 79% digestibility, which is almost 80, which is not too bad. By the chemical or heat means of breaking the wall, it is only 50% digestibility. So the digestibility with a non-mechanical means is not as good. And then if you don't have, or if you don't get the broken or pulverized cell wall form, just getting the whole cell chlorella will result in only a 47% digestibility. And if you're going to take it, you might as well get maximum digestibility. You can get this in forms of tablets, granules, powder, and a liquid extract. As I said, I prefer the powder because you just dump it in. When I do our morning vitamin brew for Pastor Herbert and I just gets dumped in with everything else, and it all goes down in the same cup. It doesn't taste bad, and it just all goes down. So if you're interested, we do have the powder. We'll have it also at camp meeting. This is just a 2-ounce size. We have 4 ounce, we could do 6 ounce, we could do 8 ounce, we could do whatever size you really want. Now, as I said, chlorella is not something to be used to supersede the 8 natural laws of health. If we look at various other problems such as digestion, in addition to chlorella, we need to look at our digestive enzymes, hydrochloric acid, probiotics, see if we're drinking enough water, if we're exercising. If we have colds and flus, there are other herbs that we can also use, as well as stimulating the immune system through an immune stimulant. We need to avoid sugar, of course, add garlic, onion, colloidal silver, all these things to help with colds and flus. For detoxifying and cleansing, doing a colon cleanse, which is usually like a fiber supplement in addition to chlorella that can work together. Then there's also specific kidney cleanses, liver cleanses, steam bath, exercise, all these things. For fibromyalgia, taking magnesium in addition to the chlorella is a good synergistic component. Adding serotonin or serotonin booster. Exercise and stress management is important for fibromyalgia. For allergies like seasonal allergies, adding also vitamin C to bowel tolerance, an immunostimulant, nettles, local honey, quercetin, these can be helpful with spring allergies. And as far as heavy metals, which is one of the things that chlorella helps to eliminate from the body, to be released from the body and eliminated, is that if you have mercury fillings in your mouth and you have an opportunity to get them out, do so, because that's a source of heavy metal right there. And if you elect to get them out, you do need to see if you can get somebody that will take them out properly, that will minimize your exposure to the mercury as it is being taken out. So minimizing our exposure, in other words, not just taking chlorella to, get it out. For instance, cadmium, if a person is smoking, that's a source of cadmium, so they need to stop adding cadmium. They need to stop smoking, which makes sense. So I just bring this to show that chlorella is a great thing to add to your repertoire. It's just that don't ignore the rest of the 8 natural laws of health that we all know and we all should love very well, and we should all be participating in. But it is a substance to really consider to support our body's detoxification systems, just because of the planet that we live in today. And again, especially those that may be exposed to toxins, to help your body in that detoxification process. At this time, are there any questions or thoughts or comments? Or if Sister Lottie even wants to tell her testimony, that would be great. It's up to her. No pressure. Sister Lottie's right here. Oh.
Well, I can testify that I probably took chlorella for, oh my goodness, at least 7 years, maybe even 10 years, quite frankly. And then I said, I was feeling so good, I just stopped taking it. And believe it or not, I really have, since I have stopped taking it, I've restarted taking it recently. But since I did stop taking it, I did start having some problems. So I'm back on it. But I do testify to chlorella. And it doesn't even matter if you, I don't really think it tastes bad personally. I have tried to get some people to take it, and they say they taste the taste and they don't like it. But I think it certainly is good enough to bear through it, and all of those, many of those things that are listed. You know, I'm just convinced that it does, in fact, help you, help your body, and you will be better. You really will.
Tell them about your eye experience.
Yes. I did. Actually, I ended up having to have surgery, really, you know, for cataract kinds of stuff. But after I did have the surgery, I did lean heavily on chlorella to get over the problem that I had after that surgery, that cataract surgery. And it did really clear up my vision quite immensely. It really did. So I can really see, I can't see distance, but I can read and all of that without my glasses.
I think it helped clear up that macular hole that they might have been saying.
Yeah, I think they had said I was getting a hold in my eye, and clearly it did clear it up. It just closed it back up. It really did. So that's a true testimony, and it helped me. And so I'm back on it, and I recommend that if you have any of those things, just try it. And if you feel like it's bothering you because of, you know, it's like algae kind of tasting kind of stuff, just push through it. Push through it, and you'll be happy for it.
My question is related to dosage. When you take the teaspoon, when you take a scoop of it, does it have to be like a mountain on this in
How much
the
of the
spoon,
benefits,
or do you have to flatten it?
how much of the benefits do you want to experience? Personally, we do a rounded teaspoon.
A heaping teaspoon.
That's personally, yeah, but at least a flat. But we do a rounded.
Okay.
You know, I did not measure mine. I just estimated, and mine was really more of a rounded teaspoon, really sort of piled high like a little hill on it. I really just didn't measure mine. I just went on and took a bunch of it. And actually, within the last 30, 45 days, my right eye started quivering, just quivering, and you know that's an annoying thing. And chlorella stopped it.
Wonderful.
It really did.
I was impressed that when I saw Chernobyl, immediately I thought of radiation, and I didn't know that it could take a radiation out of your body, because I know sometimes people have to go in for X-rays, and we all know that radiation is not really healthy. So I think that is a plus right there, that if you had to go, I mean, God forbid, if you had an accident and you had to go get X-rays, that it could protect you from radiation, or even people with cancer who have to get that radiation treatment or the chemo.
Yeah.
So I didn't know that, but I've heard of a lot of the other health benefits of it. I had taken it before. I've had it before. I usually prefer putting it in a smoothie, but the only thing with a smoothie is that it dominates the smoothie with the color. So if you have a smoothie, what usually probably red or orangey or so, it's going to turn it green.
Just close your eyes and drink.
Yeah. So, and a lot of times too, it's not everything that's good for you. It's gonna look palatable or looks pretty. So when I was taking it, I was just taking it more for health reasons other than taste.
And that's probably what most people are probably not going to take chlorella just because they, it tastes great.
Marlene wants to know if you get it in liquid form.
Yes, I don't have it in liquid form. There's
Okay.
an extract. I think it's going to be a lot more expensive though than the powder.
Oh, okay. And I often mix it up with spirulina. They're different. 'Cause they seem to look alike.
They're similar. Spirulina is not as high in chlorophyll, as chlorella is. It may be it's also very high in protein, so they're very similar. Just that chlorella has a slight edge on like the chlorophyll, and maybe some of the nutrients. I'm not as have the specifics of the nutrients memorized, but I know chlorella has higher chlorophyll than spirulina does.
Right.
But they're otherwise similar.
Yeah. I think you remember I gave you some one time. You say it has a kind of raw. I think it's the spirulina I gave you. I know one of them. I'm trying to remember which one has a kind of rawness to it.
Spirulina tends to be more mucilaginous, which means more lumpy.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, it'll be more lumpy.
It doesn't mix as well as that's true. I noticed that because even when I put it in a blender, it tends to clump
Yeah.
a little more.
The spirulina.
Yes,
Spirulina
it
tends
clumps
to be
a little
more
more.
mucilaginous.
Yeah, and you really, I learned to, rather than throw it in there, I usually mix it with water and mix it out first and then throw it in. So it mixes better.
Which if you have some digestive issues, that the mucilaginous quality may help to soothe an irritated digestive tract.
Okay.
So to start out with, you wouldn't start out with a whole teaspoon, though. I mean, for the first 2 weeks, you'd start lower?
Generally, depending upon how your digestion is, if your digestion tends to be touchy, I would start small, because the people that have problems with chlorella tend to have like digestive upset. But if you don't have, if your digestion kind of roars through everything, then fine.
You just took a whole full teaspoon?
Yeah, and the joke about me is that everything's palatable to me, and I noticed when I took it, I just went right full teaspoon, tablespoon, and I didn't feel anything. You know, it didn't, I was doing it for the effect, not for what it tasted like or anything. But yeah, if you don't have already some kind of queasiness or this food doesn't taste good to you or that food doesn't taste good to you or this makes your stomach real queasy, then you should start with the small dosages. Something entry level just to see how your body, your stomach reacts to it. I think, well, the dosage thing she put up there earlier,
It was like a third of a teaspoon. to
yeah,
start
like it's
out
like
with.
a third of a teaspoon. And because I normally don't have queasiness or anything like that, I was able just to hit the ground running and got the effects. But I can see how if you were a queasy kind of person, it has the taste that fish and seaweed has. Raw. It tastes like salt water.
There's a lot more fishy flavors out there than chlorella. Chlorella doesn't have much of a fishy flavor. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Pastor Herbert was next, I think so.
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to just say that how, Diane and I have been taking chlorella quite a bit over the years, actually. And that has been one of our staple sources of multivitamin on a daily basis. And I think most of you could testify that we don't usually get sick. What happened to us recently was really one of those flukes because we overdid our immune system, especially on this last trip we had gone to. We really pushed ourselves a lot. But look at how we didn't, since we got weakened, we made sure we took our chlorella every day, apart from all the other sprays, etc. And God, by His mercies, enabled us to bounce back to the extent that we did and as quickly as we did in order to prepare for camp meeting. I do believe that it has contributed a lot in restoring our nutrients back into our body to enable us to withstand the challenges of recuperation on a quick basis. So, God is good in terms of, from what I have seen, in enabling us also to learn that you can try different things with it. Because I have found over the years, we've tried to mix it with different things. And some of the things we've tried it with, I've really enjoyed it. I don't even taste the chlorella. I don't even taste it.
You can put it to your juice and other things. You can mask the flavor.
Yes. So it really, it's just like how vegans talk about tofu, how it absorbs whatever you put in it. You want a certain taste, well, you put a certain taste and it will absorb it. To me, chlorella is just like that. But one thing I wanted to also add was that, God is teaching us things because the world is getting more dangerous and more polluted. And the same way in which we have a knowledge of how to use charcoal for certain situations, involving poison and detoxification, as well as we've had to deal with it with certain vaccines in the past that you had to take in order to travel and things like that. It's the same way in which the Lord is showing us that we live in a world that is so dangerous in terms of even the radiation that, Brother Leroy was making mention of. We have to have this knowledge. We need to know some of the ways in which we can deal with some of the pollutants and the damaging effects of man's experiments and his warfare, because that's the age we are entering into, where people just don't care. So, as simple as these things may be, that we may have been experimenting with over the years, we really need to take it seriously, because we may really need to have access to these things moving forward in this time in which we live.
And I want to just interject before I take Sister Debbie. I know I highlighted chlorella in the latter part here, but in the early part, remember I highlighted greens, just greens on a whole. I think some of you have heard me say, if you don't know anything else to do, do green drink. And it may sound like a pat answer, but it's true. You can see from the presentation that really and true, if you don't know what to do for your health problem, take greens. What does the Bible say that's for the healing of the nations? The greens, the leaves. So make yourself a green drink. As I've told many of you, the easiest thing to do is if you have one of these NutriBullet things that are very popular these days, and get a box of pre-washed organic spring mix. Take handfuls of that, stuff it in your NutriBullet, put a little bit of pineapple juice in there, blend it up, and you have a cup of green drink, and that was probably about that much greens, which most of us are not going to eat that much in one sitting. So you're getting a lot of greens in really fast that way, and that's another way of getting in a lot of greens. And I say that is so that we can use that also in various situations, in addition to chlorella or whatever else we're taking.
This Wallflower Online asks, can you still take your iron supplements and chlorella? And because this person says, will I be getting too much iron even though I was told I was anemic? So they want to know if they're taking other supplements, is it going to interfere with the chlorella?
She probably should get some a blood test to see where iron level is, and if it is normal, so she can drop off of the iron supplement and replace that with chlorella, because you don't want to get too much iron either. Too much iron is not a good thing. So probably getting some blood work done, seeing if it's been a while since she's had it, see where she is. If she's near normal, drop off the specific iron supplement and just switch to chlorella. Or if she's normal, then it's just a switch over.
I said I remember taking chlorella some time back, and I kept bringing it back up every time I take it. And you said that maybe I didn't have enough enzymes in my stomach to deal with it. So do you keep taking it, and would you get used to it, or how do you have enough enzymes to deal with it?
Did you supplement enzymes?
No.
Probably supplementations enzymes, yeah. You need an enzyme supplement.
An enzyme supplement?
Yes, digestive enzyme supplement.
Okay, but if I keep taking the chlorella, will I get used to it? I mean, I don't want to...
Not if the enzyme level doesn't come up.
Okay.
I think the enzyme level needs to come up, and maybe the hydrochloric acid in your stomach as well.
Okay.
There's something, I think, in the digestive system that needs to be enhanced so that it doesn't create a problem. But yeah, hydrochloric acid and digestive enzymes. I saw Marlene a little while ago, I know. Or who? Oh, Sister Lyles, okay, you've got the mic.
Yeah, I just wanted to share, many years ago, I read a scientific article where the Navy and other military forces, they have done surgeries and used for blood transfusion green chlorella and other things. A lot of times when you hear of these sports people being healed very rapidly, they're using these natural remedies that are not available to a lot of people, or a lot of people would feel that they're foreign. But as Sister Diane has said many times in this presentation, blood simply has magnesium in it, iron in it that makes it red. The chlorella has
Magnesium.
the magnesium. So it is equivalent to your blood, the chlorella. It is equivalent. Do you understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And when you do your greens, a lot of us don't like greens. I love greens. I grew up on greens because we had a garden, and I love collards and cabbage and whatever. They're alkaline, So they take that acid from the body. We get sick because our bodies are acid, and all of these toxins make our bodies acid. We really do, we have an imbalance. So try to get over the taste. It's not the taste, it's what it's going to do to help your body. So remember, like I said, a lot of these athletes and things, reason why they can get well so quickly and bounce back is because these doctors are using these natural remedies. They're using the high-powered, I mean, they're simple. I read an article recently where, well, you know, some of us probably have heard of vitamin C IV. I mean, that's something very sophisticated, and you'd have to be in a doctor's office or whatever. But we know that we take vitamin C on a small level when we get the flu or to even prevent it. So in a larger dose, in a controlled setting, in IV, you know, you could see how much more powerful that would be. But you're really, and it's amazing what God has done for us. And as Pastor was saying, you know, we're going to have to know how to deal with certain things. It is becoming, have you noticed that all of the hospitals are closing, and they're getting into, you know, large conglomerates. They're buying all the small ones or whatever, et cetera. And it's going to be very, very difficult to get health care, not only because we can't afford it, but also because it's going to be less and less health care services. And when you really think about it, Ellen White, Spirit of Prophecy, says that we need to move away from drugs because they only bring more disease into our bodies. And we have to be patient with ourselves and also get over the taste. It's not the taste. You can get over all kinds of tastes. They said that Corella was bad. I can do the Corella tea with nothing, and that's a detox. A lot of times they tell you, and you know, that Corella, and it's a herb that Sister Diane has, and you do a 3-day or a week detox, and you don't put anything in it, and you use the same herb like 3 days in a row, and it detoxes a lot of the chemicals. And the whole thing of it is that we cannot get away from the toxins in the world. They're all around us. We're not going to ever get away from them, you know. So be patient with yourself and don't stop something because maybe it does have have a problem with your stomach. There's a way around that.
Just to follow up, Sister Diane, to Debbie's question, what is a good enzyme supplement?
It would be digestive enzymes, such as, it would be like lipase, amylase, those different digestive enzymes to help your digestive tract to actually break down different things. Also, I mentioned about hydrochloric acid. If a person's stomach doesn't have enough hydrochloric acid, then your digestion is not going to go forward very well because your digestion starts in your stomach. And if you take hydrochloric acid tablets, what you do is you take that one with your largest meal of the day and see how that goes. And if it goes okay, you can add another one to that. If you start feeling a warmth in your stomach, you back off and see if that increasing the hydrochloric acid in your stomach helps with your digestion. And then add the digestive enzymes and see if that helps as well.
Okay, so my question is, they told me that I'm not absorbing the nutrients from my food, so they put me on the CMOS. The CMOS, is it the same equivalent as that? Which one is better? And would my body absorb the nutrients from the Corella? And my second question is, Caitlin is iron deficiency, so they had put her on the iron tablets. Now, for that, how would, the dosage, I just took a picture of it, so I may have to just refer to the dosage in order to see if that will help her.
Yeah. First of all, as far as CMOS, the CMOS is a little different than chlorella. CMOS is not going to be as green. Probably your CMOS is more like a brown or a reddish color, so it's different. I don't see a problem with taking both together for you. Now for Caitlin, is she scheduled to get blood work again to see where her iron levels are?
We just found it out, so she's on the iron tablet, so it's another maybe 6 months.
Another 6 months, okay. Was it very low or just kind of like marginally low? Okay. Okay, so she said that it was quite low. So probably at this point, I would just go ahead with the supplement and chlorella and look at the blood work in 6 months and see what it is. And maybe by that time, they'll just say, okay, you can come off of our iron supplement. Yeah, I think it should be okay with both.
Yes, Sister Diane, I don't know if you answered the question about weight gain on this, okay? But I have two parts to what I want to ask. All right, the first one is, okay, you said toxin is one of the main reasons, because on the last slide we had clean and remove toxin. Toxin weakens the immune system and wreaks havoc to the body function. Okay, this would pull toxin out of the body. So now how does this align with this COVID? Because see, every time someone take a COVID shot, it weakens their immune system. So whatever is in that COVID shot cannot be good because it's toxicity. So I know people who have taken a shot and have gotten this COVID. They've gotten a booster. Each time they take a shot, they get COVID. So how would this operate with a person that has taken the COVID shot? Will it subtract the toxin out of it and at the same time raise their immune system? Okay, that's one part. And then the other part is, how do it help you gain weight?
Now, as far as the COVID situation, that is,
Increase who's involved? Hers?
the COVID situation, that's an interesting question, because yes, it stimulates the immune system, which would be good. Now, one of the things about chlorella is its impact on the DNA and RNA, which is one of the concerns with the current COVID vaccinations, is that it being able to reverse back into our RNA, I believe it is, because it's an mRNA vaccination. So, theoretically, it perhaps could be protective for our DNA for those that take the vaccination. In other words, if you take vaccination and you take chlorella, well, hopefully they're not taking any more boosters, but that's a whole other discussion. But for those that have, the fact that chlorella helps to maintain the integrity of our DNA and RNA, it's theoretically possible it could help with the COVID vaccination problem through that mechanism. Of course, also stimulating the immune system, but also through the DNA, RNA protection that it provides. And as far as weight gain, you know, once you start normalizing your metabolism, things start to become better. The high protein content also would be another way. And I know we're not getting off onto the idea that plants don't have enough protein, because they do, but the extra protein that is in the chlorella could also help with tissue synthesis, muscle formation, that kind of a stuff, especially if you're also pairing that with exercise. Usually you have to tell your body that you want this extra muscle by doing some exercise and then providing it the nutrients it needs to build this extra muscle, which would be like the protein. And so it's high in protein, and that would be one of the ways it would help.
Sister Diane, that is to the backside of your question, Brother Ragland. There's a science in exercise where it's a proven method. But if you want to build muscle, they teach you higher weight, lower reps. Like if you want the muscle group to volumize, If you want to lose weight and show definition, they teach you lower weight, longer rep. Let's say the midsection, because for most people, and I know after childbirth, the midsection is the hardest place to lose fat. So the science would be you start a rigorous cardio regimen, not walk, run, or bike for an excessive amount of time, 30 to 40 minutes a day. Let's say if you're a guy and you want your arms to be really, really big, you lift the heaviest weight possible 4 to 5 times. That's it. I experimented with this science with chlorella because you gave a presentation like this maybe 6 or 7 years ago.
9 years ago.
9 years ago. I experimented with that exercise science and using the chlorella numerous times since then. I know at times you guys would notice my weight will fluctuate. And that science is one of the reasons why. If I want to increase muscle volume, I'll go dump chlorella for maybe 6 or 7 days and do the regimen like that. And I can vouch for that aspect of it. The notion of not getting any protein while you're not eating meat is chlorella laughs at that because the gains I've gotten when I cycled on and I treated it as if it was a supplement. So I'm not taking it all the time. I'm taking it when Sister Smith tell me my trouser pants are too tight. She has told me that. And I will go on a cardio regimen where I'm running and I stop lifting heavy and I take that chlorella and the size will come off of my thighs. The size will come off of my waist. The size will come off of my suit jacket. Some suit jackets, some of my suits, because of that regimen, if I want to fit into that suit, I know I can lose a certain amount of weight and the trousers and the jacket fits me. And it's because of that, the chlorella and that science.
We'll have to have you give some more detail one of these days.
Okay. I want to go back to the enzymes. Is there a correlation between eating combinations of food and maybe canceling out, like the enzymes are diluted when we drink water? A lot of people think that, it doesn't really hurt. Could you follow that trend? Is it with all the enzymes or the combination of foods and so forth and so on like that? Because a lot of times, sometimes there are people who are born with a lack of different enzymes, but it has a lot to do with the drinking water and the combinations of food and so forth and so on like that.
That's an interesting question. The different enzymes especially digest carbohydrate, protein, and fats, and maybe some other things. And all plant foods have a combination of most of those. In other words, you don't have just a plant food that's just carbohydrate unless it's refined. Even whole wheat has a combination of carbohydrate, protein, and at least some fat, even though it's not considered a whole fat. So enzymes are basically proteins. So there's something along the line that is apparently not enabling the body to put together those enzymes that it should. Put together the proteins because those enzymes are proteins, basically. Put them together as they should in sufficient quantities. The million-dollar question then is how to stimulate the body to do that. I can't say that I have a golden answer for that. In order for a person to get to that situation, it could be a combination of years of not eating the best. It could also be from a result of certain illnesses, digestive tract illnesses, in combination with other events in their life that could put them in this disadvantageous position where normally the body should make it, but it's not really. So for those situations, I think the supplements may be helpful. The hydrochloric acid and the supplements may be helpful to at least try to get over that hump. And I think you were going down as far as even what food combinations. You know, one of the main food combinations that we look at is what Ellen White says, and that is to combine our fruits and vegetables together. Now, with some complementary information, but with contemporary individuals, we understand that that's especially raw fruits and raw vegetables. And for a standard person who has a good digestion, having a little bunch of grapes or a couple strawberries at the end of the meal is probably not going to make your digestion fall apart. But if you have a big fruit salad and a big raw vegetable salad, leafy salad, the same meal, it's probably not the best thing. Where am I going with all this is that for a person's digestion to get not the greatest, it is the end result of probably other things that has happened in their life that is not as healthy as they should be. And the question is looking back in that person's life and trying to understand that and correct it, and maybe adding some supplements. And getting a good whole food plant-based diet. Avoiding the sugars and things like that, and the refined foods, and not drinking with your meals, as you mentioned. Is that kind of the direction you're? Okay.
I wanted to ask if we can grow it.
Let me hear Sister Lyles. Let me finish this, Sister Lyles, and I'll be right with you.
I said that because I wanted to share that I became a vegetarian when I was 15. I did not know what I was doing. I didn't want to eat meat because of some information that, well, anyway, they were slaughtering chickens, and the article was saying that it was in the Sunday paper, and you've seen these big trucks running down the road with the chickens in the pens, and they're commuting them back and forth. And as an Adventist, I knew about vegetarianism, but I didn't really know anyone. But anyway, I didn't want any of it because they said they cut the breast off and they sold you the other part, okay? But anyway, in a course of about 3 years, I became anemic, and the doctor said that it was because I was not eating meat. Okay, well, I reluctantly began to eat meat again, but what happened is, and I wanted you to travel that, because I simply stopped eating meat and start eating the fake meats. And I wasn't eating enough variety, etc. But as I got into my early adulthood, I got off the meat, etc. And I did not only rely on just the canned, at that time it was really the canned meats. They didn't really have many frozen ones or whatever. But it was really the diet that was causing me to do that. And so I wanted for us to hear that, so we could understand that a lot of times it's what we're eating or we're not eating that's causing these problems with our bodies, not being able to break things down and assimilate. Right. And that was a major problem. And I've never had the problem with being anemic before, but they will tell you that. And that's the science, or that's the understanding that they have. But when you have a better understanding and the fact that you need to eat a variety, me liking greens shouldn't have been a problem, because the greens really is where you have a lot of your iron at. And people think you only get iron from meat, you know, et cetera. But I wanted to share that because it's not an isolated situation. And as you most aptly said, that it could be a combination of years of a problem, you know, and it seems all to tie in to the fact that, well, now you're not eating meat, and you think that that is what the cause of it is. You're not getting the protein, but it is because the body is not in balance, basically.
And eating the fresh raw greens will help the body to manufacture those enzymes. But if a person already has a low enzyme situation, the body may need some help because of their problem. Yes, Sister Ned.
Can we grow it?
Can you what?
Can we grow it?
Grow chlorella? Well, it is grown, yes, but it is grown in certain environments. That's an interesting question. I don't know of any person particularly growing it individually, let's put it that way.
Okay, so I'm imagining then, so this is great for leading up to preparation. Like, this should be something we do to prepare ourselves. When the time comes, we won't even be able to buy stuff like that. What would be the first thing to do, to go to?
Well, the first thing to do is to use the greens you have at hand. I mean, if we discover how to grow chlorella, that's great. But, you know, there's things like watercress that is probably growing wild. Other greens that would be growing wild. While it may not be as high in chlorophyll as chlorella, again, it's greens. Greens, I don't want us to lose the picture of greens in general for the focus on chlorella. Greens in general are great, and so use the greens that you have at hand. Chlorella just has all these wonderful extra benefits, especially for those of us that are maybe wanting to avoid health problems or have health problems. But otherwise, just getting a lot of greens, that's why green drinks. Most of us don't eat enough greens. So green drinks is a great way of getting more greens in. And so if we have wild harvested greens, dandelions, other green stuff that can be wild foraged, and I know Sister Janet, she's not here right now, she loves to go wild foraging. So that would be the solution.
Yes, thank you very much. I just want to say that I think if this might be stuff that kind of, maybe you guys have heard it before and all of this. I've heard eat your greens before, for sure. But I think that the Holy Spirit does want us to take it seriously. Mm-hmm. So thank you for the presentation.
Sure. Go ahead.
Isn't it grown in the sea?
Yes, it's grown in lakes usually.
Okay.
Lakes, like in a controlled environment lake.
Okay.
When I say controlled, in other words, it's not, the animals aren't just going to be able to walk through and that kind of stuff.
So for us to come back to the U.S., when I applied for the immigration visa, they required me to take about 4 vaccines, I think 4. And I had to take those vaccines within 1 week. That's what the embassy sent. And I had to go to a particular doctor. Just one doctor they chose that I had to go there. It seemed like all the people that were applying for the visa had to go to that doctor. So 4 vaccines in 1 day. And then on top of that, I had about 4 or 5 teeth extracted around the same time. I was in pain. And they filled up some of the teeth with those things they put in the tooth. And then we came to America. I did not feel the same person until my own smell disturbed me. I kept telling her, I was like, I don't feel right. I don't even smell good. And my digestion, my metabolism was a big problem. I was struggling with food. And I started having all these health issues until I felt my bones were deforming, the start of that deforming. And I started having more tooth problems, and I wanted to fill them up, and I would ask them to just pull them up. It was in such a way that even it affected my English, my speaking, because I lost so many teeth in a short period of time. But the digestive part of the problem was severe. I was having stress also. And we started leaning toward plants, making research. And she came home one day that she was leaving the library. She just saw this book that they were giving away. She just felt like taking the book. And it was a book about earth. We started reading and putting things together that helped with my digestion. And it was golden seal, barberry, meadowsweet, wild yam, ginger, slippery elm, licorice, marshmallow, comfrey. We followed the book with the percentage it gave and put them together. And I've been taking that since, and it's helping me with the digestive thing. And the bone problem stopped. I couldn't hold my tool to work because I had so much pain. But with this, when I take it, when I eat some, at the point I started just sprinkling on top of my food and eat it with it. And it helped me digest. I no longer felt the pain I had before, and I started recovering. And then people in my country mentioned that they have problem with ulcers because I had those. So we put those together and sent it, and they said it really helped. And they contacted their relatives in the US because we are close to them than to Africa. And they contacted us, we sent it, and they say it helped. So I don't know if this has something to do with the digestive enzyme, the combination we have, because I don't know what the digestive enzymes are. But the list is here. If it's something that helps with that, I think we should look into it. It helped me.
It sounds like it particularly helped with getting, soothing the digestive tract, because that's what the slippery elm would do, help to soothe and heal it from the inflammation. The golden seal would be, and the barberry would be helpful for infection and inflammation as well. So dealing with a lot of soothing and inflammation that was going on. Probably the enzymes might be a little bit to a more of a lesser degree, but just the fact of soothing and healing the digestive system, and by soothing it and healing it, making it so when you get into these health problems, the cells lining your digestive tract then become more permeable, then the stuff leaks into your body. You end up, your immune system starts reacting, and you have a whole lot of things. But by soothing and healing and tightening up your digestive tract, it helps to stop that. But what you experienced, I hope you never have to go through that again, because that was very, very potentially a dangerous situation to get 4 vaccinations in one day. You should never get more than 1 vaccination in a day, and have it followed by several weeks of interspersed That is one of the fastest ways of getting yourself an autoimmune disease, is having a multiple vaccinations in one time. That was potentially very, very serious. An autoimmune disease is not easy to deal with. It's not a common cold. It's not even COVID. It's worse than COVID. It's hard to get rid of an autoimmune disease. So that was potentially dangerous. And then to get dental work on top of that, it's amazing you don't have worse health problems, because what you did is you put yourself in a very dangerous situation. Praise the Lord, you are doing as well as you are.
I was dying. I woke her up 4 times in one night to say goodbye. The thing is, before I took those vaccines, she was against it. But I wanted to come back to the US, so I didn't listen to her. And now all the health issues. So sometimes it's good to listen. But I thank God that I'm still alive. I was dying. I could feel that I was dying.
Yeah.
And I kept telling her, goodbye, goodbye. If you find somebody else, get married, take care of like I'm putting my house in order. And I said I would lie on the bed here at any time, my heart would stop. And it was like comedy, but this was real.
Yeah, serious. It was,
Yeah.
what you put yourself, found yourself,
Yeah.
it was in a very serious situation. You could have had stroke, heart attack. You could have had all kinds of things that happened because of that combination that you ended up finding yourself in, all in such a short time. Yes. Any final comment or question? If not, I appreciate your time and your attention. And hopefully, if nothing else, it will cause you to appreciate your greens much better. And perhaps even to try chlorella, and also to try having green drinks. And I'm serious, if you don't know anything else to do for your health, try green drinks. They're easy. It's as easy as going down and buying a $5 bin of greens and some pineapple juice. You're not going to be able to walk through a doctor's office for less than what? What is it now, $50 or $100? You can buy an awful lot of greens and pineapple juice for that. And chlorella, you can buy an awful lot of chlorella for walking through a doctor's office. Yes, it is, of course, a little bit more expensive than maybe your green drink, but it's packed with a lot of nutrition, and it's still, like I said, a lot cheaper than walking through the doctor's office. All right, Elsie? Yes. You can see me afterwards if you want. Yes. At this time, do you want to close off to say anything, or do you want us to just pray? Okay, we'll go ahead and say a word of prayer as we close. Let's kneel. Dear loving Heavenly Father, we thank you for the instructions that we have in your word. We thank you for giving us the indication that greens are so important, and that even the leaves of the tree of life are what will heal us, to give us an indication that we really need to pay serious attention to the greens that you have provided for us. Thank you so much. And for those that are having trouble eating their greens, please grant them the taste for it and the motivation to include it in their diet more than they are. And may you even add your power to the healing of greens, whether we're using chlorella or green drinks or otherwise. May you add your healing power to that for all of our various health problems. And we thank you, and we ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen. I think this was also recorded to YouTube for those that want to review it again.